they're planning a wedding outside, and they've just started like 10 minutes ago testing the music. So it's probably gonna.
Yeah, that's how it goes when you're in Tanzania. You know, a lot of people watching probably know you already, but tell everyone your name, where you're based, and what you do with TDA.
So I'm Sharita from Merwe. I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa, and I'm one of the tour leaders for TDA Global Cycling. So I've been with TDA since 2009. That was my first tour, and since then it's just been TDA
24/7.
Yeah. Just flat out TDA all the way.
Yeah, and I think well, easily you're the most traveled of our tour leaders, of our staff. So maybe just very briefly, like, so what are some of the trips you've done and some of the places you've been?
Sure. So 2009, I started off with the Tour d'Afrique, and then I think I did about 5 back-to-back full Tour d'Afrique tours. And then I'm still, every year I'm involved with the Tour d'Afrique, the planning, the staff, the logistics. But I also did Bamboo Road, the Silk Road, Ruta Maya, a portion of the South American Epic, Madagascar, and then West Africa, which was a big one, and the Odyssey tour. I think that's it.
So all the people I've interviewed for this, I usually ask them if they have a favorite memory, you know, from one of their trips. And so for you, it'll be a little different, having been with the company for many years. Do you have a favorite memory? There's probably several, but can you choose one to tell us about?
Yeah, no, that's that's quite a difficult question. In 2009, we did a scout in Dinda National Park in the sort of the southern part of Sudan, and I had one of the guys from the Ministry of Tourism with me, and there's no road signs, there's nothing. It's just locals making roads wherever they feel they want to go. And we ended up in that region trying to find a route for the tour. And it was just a next level. And we would go from village to village and pick up a local, and then they would point us in a direction to the next sort of village in the direction we wanted to go. And at some point we just got completely lost. And we kept on driving, and then I think it was about 11 o'clock at night on a Christmas Eve. And we arrived at this village. There was maybe 4 or 5 huts. And the locals were just so generous and friendly, and they felt like we had to celebrate now because it's Christmas, you know. So they offered their beds. They were just sleeping there under the trees outside because it's so hot there. So they immediately offered their beds and gave us some palm wine for Christmas. Can't say that the palm wine was a real hit, but 30 minutes later they showed up, they slaughtered a goat and prepared this feast at like 12 o'clock at night in the middle of the boonies under the African stars. And that one stands out.
Oh, that's great.
Good memory.
Yeah, I remember you being in Sudan for Christmas, but I hadn't heard those details. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and maybe just another one that which was also a real highlight.
Mm-hmm.
Great memory was I think it was 2017 when we did the initial scout for West Africa with Maxime, and we had some logistical issues with our vehicle that got stuck in Spain. And
so Maxime was the tour leader, right, for West Africa?
Yeah, he was the tour leader for West Africa. We were sort of running out of time because we had other commitments coming up. So we really had to find a vehicle and a driver to get us from Senegal to Ghana. Like that was our final destination, Ghana. And then we managed to, in 2 days, get a little 4x4, total piece of shit. But, it did the job. And we basically followed the maps, and it was just crazy, the conditions of the road in Guinea. Like, we had a plan set to follow a certain route, and then at the end we just realized there's just no way in hell that we would be able to do this. Our car broke down I don't know how many times, and our driver just kept fixing it and fixing it. I remember at one point the radiator or the vehicle overheated, and we were in the middle of nowhere, and there was a car coming past, and he stopped and he asked the guy for a cigarette, and I thought, the hell, cigarette? Because he wasn't smoking. And then he opened the radiator cap and he put some water, and we always had like 2 bottles of water in the engine because this thing was constantly overheating. And he took the tobacco from the cigarette and he just sort of put it inside the radiator. And I was like, what the hell is this guy doing? And then he explained that that's sort of sealing the inside of the radiator. The tobacco, it sort of clocks up and then leaking.
Wow.
So things like that was just, that was really amazing to see the bushmix in West Africa.
I also ask everyone if they have any advice for someone who's considering doing their first TDA tour as a participant. What would you advise to them? What's a good tip from Sharita?
Oh, wow. For a start, just sign up, pack light, travel light, and just take it one day at a time. Like, that's why you sign up for a supported tour. Like, start off with half days, and before you know it, the tour's over. Like, time flies when you're on these tours. So yeah, I think the biggest advice I would give anyone is to pack light and travel light, and you will have an enjoyable journey.
Yes, I concur with the pack light. I think we definitely try to treat all of our clients equally, but I think subconsciously they get preferential treatment when they pack light. It always makes the staff happy.
Yeah.
That's good.
It also keeps our backs intact.
Yeah, keep us healthy, no back injuries. So let's change gears. So where are you right now? And I have some follow-up questions to that.
For the moment, I'm in room 704 on the 4th floor, overlooking the beautiful Tanga Bay, in the sort of the northeast corner of Tanzania. During
the middle of a pandemic, what are you doing in Tanzania?
Yeah, so basically the idea is to do a loop around and sort of connect all the touristic hotspots, sort of the best of Tanzania on a bike. For the moment, we just sort of halfway through a scout trip. And what we want to do is try and connect all these touristic hotspots by taking off the beaten track dirt roads. We want to try and avoid most of the busy areas and tarmac roads with lots of traffic. So we're really bundu bashing and trying to find a very unique route. So yeah, the idea is to do it over like a 3 to 4 week period, roughly 2,000 kilometers. And I would say a big chunk of that will be off-road. Yeah, so the plan is to start in Arusha and then sort of make our way up north to the Kenyan border, around past Lake Natron, Lake Manyara. Then we would make our way down to Dodoma, and then also we want to try and include the beautiful beaches of Zanzibar, sort of make our way through the Uzumbara Mountains back to Arusha. So that would sort of complete the loop, and it will probably be broken up in 2 sections. Tanzania's really got it all, like anything from the mountains, the waterfalls, the tea plantations, the craters, the wildlife, the beaches. So yeah, I'm really excited to share that, and hopefully I'll also get to get on a bike for a change, because It's really exciting these little dirt roads. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds great. And so you mentioned one of the things that's a little different for this trip is we're going to try to combine it with a safari before and an option for a Kilimanjaro climb afterwards for those that are interested, right?
Yeah.
So you started from your home in South Africa, and like I haven't left Toronto since March, since the pandemic started, and I'm sure a lot of people watching haven't either. So can you tell people a bit about your experience? Like, what was it like going through the airport and being on an airplane and arriving in a new country during a pandemic? What was that like?
Yeah, well, for a start, I mean, it's sort of, there's a few extra steps you have to take, I mean, compared to before the pandemic. But I mean, it's not complicated and rocket science. I mean, for starters, what I found was some of the airlines have gone out of business. So I had to look for different routes and different options to get to my final destination. So that's one thing that sort of don't assume that the same routes are still intact as
Yeah.
before. So yeah, but once I figured out how to get to my final destination, the airline was quite good at giving you information of the destination where you're heading, like what the requirements are. And the one requirement for Tanzania and transiting through Nairobi was a negative COVID test. So I just basically called them and I said, this is my departure time and my arrival time, and they gave me a time slot that I had to go for my test.
Okay.
And yeah, it was so quick. It was not really uncomfortable at all. In and out, signed the papers, and they sent me the results. And yeah, it was nothing complicated. And I mean, when you check in, they ask you for your negative test, and when you go through the transit airport, you just have to show your test, and then the same on arrival. So it's really not a complicated thing to do.
For your experience, were the airports busy, and was the airplane full?
Well, that was one thing that was really striking. When you walk into the airport, it was like empty, because I mean, for start, they only allow passengers into the terminals. So already there's people. And then the other thing that was striking, a lot of the shops have closed down inside the terminals. So there were only like a few shops open, like maybe one or two restaurants and so on. But yeah, the emptiness of these huge big buildings, that was really striking. And I mean, the only other thing that's sort of an add-on or new is the fact that you have to fill out your health declaration, and then they do a temperature check. But I mean, the security is still the same. You have to wear your mask all the time inside the terminal, and then obviously also on the plane, you have to wear your mask. And when they serve beverages and the meals, you can remove your mask, and then once you're done, you just put it back on.
What are you most looking forward to with the restart, I guess, like getting back to cycling? What aspect of it are you most looking forward to?
I think for me, yeah, it's just the excitement of being on the road, and I mean, you just never know what's going to happen next. Like, I do enjoy that part of the job where it's like unscripted. You never know what's going to happen next, and you just always have to be wide awake. But yeah, also just passing through all these beautiful areas and sharing it with everyone.
I remember when you first started many years ago. One of the things we learned about you is you had done a solo trip through parts of Africa cycling a few years before that. Did you mind telling us a little bit about that?
But yeah, it was a trip, Cairo, Cape Town mission. I just left school, I think 2 or 3 years after school. I read an article about the 2003 Tour d'Afrique. I think there was a Getaway magazine. I saw a small photo and a clip of the Tour d'Afrique. I think that was the first edition. And that's something that sort of stuck in my head. And then 2 or 3 years after that, I decided I'm going to cycle around South Africa. And same thing, I just packed my bags and took off. And my parents left me to do my thing. And yeah, that was a 2-month trip, and I really enjoyed it. It was such a good experience. I mean, I just enjoyed it, and I thought, well, I did this trip, so now I might as well, take on this massive continent. It was hard work. When you're on the road, you're cycling and you're trying to figure out, okay, where I'm going tonight, where I'm going to sleep, where I'm going to find food. And I mean, back then it wasn't like now where you have smartphones. It was still the old, like, small Nokia phones.
How did you manage, through some of the drier stretches to keep yourself fed and find water?
Yeah, I mean, that was a challenge. But at least locals all along the route they were really helpful. And I mean, they offer you free food and water and whatever. So I would always just carry like tons of water with me. Like, I had a big chunk of a few extra liters with me on the bike, especially in the northern part where it's like long distances between villages.
Thanks, Sharita, for doing this, and good luck with the rest of your time in Tanzania, and safe travels back to South Africa.
Yeah, no, thanks. Hakuna Matata.
Yes, absolutely. Well, safe journeys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cool beans.
Okay.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Sharita, for sharing your stories with us. We will be back next month with another episode of TDA Talks. So in the meantime, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you then.